Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Brock the Collector here, coming back to you with another video. Today, we are going to be going over my Star Wars The Black Series wish list. This is a video that I've wanted to get to for a very long time, and now it is finally upon us. So, I will just throw out there, look, this is not going to be like your conventional Star Wars The Black Series wish list that we've seen. A lot of people with every Star Wars line, there will come people's most anticipated. There are different characters people have an affinity for, different eras that people love. I know that nowadays the popular talk is a lot of prequel trilogy stuff, but y'all will find that my list is probably not like many other lists that you've seen. Of course, that doesn't mean that the figures that are the most popular, the most talked about out there, like Sabajo Press and other characters like that, it doesn't mean that I don't want those figures. It just means that I'm here to tell you some of the more obscure stuff that I want. You know what I'm trying to say? So, you know what? Without further ado, let's go straight up into it. And be starting us off, I got the obvious ones here. We're just gonna go with Lobot here, number one. I'm trying to make this a little bit more, you know, a little bit realistic for y'all, kind of like how I did the Infinity Saga videos, and now I'm just realizing that I forgot to include the dollar sign right here. But yes, of course, Lobot, Lando's assistant, he has appeared in a good amount of Star Wars content. Of course, most notably Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, but there are, of course, plenty of other books he appears in. I'm pretty sure he's also mentioned in the Aftermath series, and I love Lobot, man. He's just a nice confidant. And of course, the cybernetic emplacement on his head is also very much it's seen in other characters throughout the Star Wars mythos. So of course, as an action figure, he might be a little bit on the more boring side in terms of he doesn't have like any cool arm or a lightsaber or anything like that. But he's a very important character to get up in there, and they've done a lot of original trilogy stuff. They gotta just keep on making that headway, get this guy done, because come on, we need him for the Empire Strikes Back display. Next up, Nine Nub. This one I personally really want because my biggest connection to Nyan Nub is in the Star Wars Battlefront 2015 video game, where he was super duper annoying when he could call in the orbital strikes. That was just ridiculous. Of course, as an accessories, he'd have an A280C and his binoculars. Of course, as a reference to the game, Star Wars Black Series tends to do this thing where if it's not like a major character, then they will only make about one figure of it and sort of try to have it be sort of the definitive version, but they oftentimes lose out on that in terms of accessories. So that's why Nine Nub got to have those binoculars, man. And overall, he'd just be another nice alien to add to the shelf. A Celestian would be very important to add, and that would open up the possibility for other characters in the line as well. So Nine Nub, there we go. These are the two, probably the two most generally agreeable on my list. Now we're going into some of the more obscure stuff. Darth Cadus. I do have a large affinity for Legends characters. You will see that throughout this wish list. Here we got Jason Solo's Darth Cadus, MSRP 24.99. Again, I forgot to include the dollar sign. I must have been tired when I was making this. All new body mold accessories. Of course, his red lightsaber, the force push hand, and interchangeable fists. You could make the argument for a light side Jason Solo, but the only thing about the light side version is that it's not as cool as the dark side version. That's just as simple as that. It would basically just be akin to the Bespin Luke Skywalker, except it would just of course have the Jason Solo head on it. It's not a necessarily super duper unique costume, but the Darth Cadus outfit is what we'd love to see, of course, with this nice design, the texturing. I can imagine what they can get up on there, a nice marriage of soft goods and sculpted detail, and I can imagine how they'd hit this head sculpt out of the park. So yeah, something like that. Force push hand, interchangeable fists would go absolutely fantastic with that Jaina Solo figure we have there, so that we can create the lightsaber battle from the Legacy of the Force series. Shakti, of course, another one that I would say is pretty universally agreeable. Shakti is probably one of my most anticipated prequel Jedi. I really just want a Shakti. The only detriment of her is that I feel like the way that Hasbro would do it, she'd be limited in terms of her tendrils, her head tendrils, because of course, they're very long, and I feel like they'd inhibit the ability of her to move her head from side to side. But this would be an absolutely necessity for the prequel Jedi, and stuff like that. And also, she'd add some very nice color up onto the shelf. There's not a lot of people up there who are red skinned, you know what I'm saying? So we got to get Shakti going. And I personally feel like, I mean, of course, the version that they're going to do, if they were to do her eventually, is the Attack of the Clones / Revenge of the Sith version. But, for some of y'all filthy peeps up out there, you could throw in a Force Unleashed version. I mean, I'm not saying that I wouldn't buy it, but sheesh, calm down. This one I really want. So now we're going into the Null class ARC Troopers. I'm trying to get a Null class ARC Trooper 2-pack, Ordo and Prudy. So these guys, the Null class ARCs are a more independent version of the Jango Fett clone template, or not really template, the Jango Fett clones, I guess. These guys are trained by the Mandalorians, some of the Jango Fett's friends himself. So they are a lot more independent in terms of, thinking and rationality, critical thinking, strategy. It's one of the reasons why they tend to skew away from the Grand Army of the Republic in terms of, the way that they act and the way that they behave on missions, because they can oftentimes butt heads with their commanding officers. They are very independent, very much akin to Jango Fett himself, the bounty hunter. So these guys are mainly from novelizations, Karen Travis novelizations, and that's where these images come from. And these are some of the few official images that we have of them. But of course, Star Wars The Black Series has survived on less. Like their Star Wars Infinity's Darth Vader had only one comic panel for his appearance. And these guys have a couple of images of them, whether it be on book covers or different images from visual dictionaries and stuff like that. So, yeah, we got to get these guys going. These would mainly be on the newer clone body mold, updated helmets, pauldrons, commas. It's really just I really love the Phase 1 Clone Trooper appearance. The only thing I don't like is the current helmet that they have going for it that they put onto the regular Phase 1, only because they usually miss to paint this chin dot right there. Oh, whoops. They usually miss to paint this chin dot right there. So they got to have that going with this newer one. If you notice the helmet that they put on with the Doc Ondar set, that helmet looks really good. If they could get that and just add the rangefinder to the side, and add of course some different accessories for the commas and the pauldrons, then you basically got yourself some old class arcs right there. Very easy repaint. That's why I'm saying this one could be an Amazon exclusive if they wanted to make it so that it wouldn't take up space in the mainline wave. 49.99 DC-15 blaster rifle, DC-15 blaster pistols, and we could definitely get these two going. Ordo and Prudy Skirata. Ordo, of course, coming with his removable helmet, because we do know what his head looks like, and I feel like they could get a really nice Jango Fett portrait with Ordo's sort of a silver fox side of the head going on. So yeah, let's get that going. These are probably some of my two most anticipated clone troopers right here, and I think that they're the only clones that I actually put onto this whole list. So yeah, there we go. Got that going on. Let's get these two eventually, please. Next up is Shattil Shan. So I never played Star Wars The Old Republic, but I did watch all of the cinematics when I was younger. So my attachment to them is about the same capacity as the average Star Wars fan. And I just got to say, I absolutely love those cinematics. Very, very cinematic, I guess you could say. And Shattil Shan is just an absolute freaking fire just character in those cinematics, and the way that she takes on Darth Malgus. We got that figure coming on. You notice a lot of the 2023 figures we have come in really have influenced this list. We gotta have Shattil Shan, double-bladed lightsaber and some power effects to imitate, so that you can, successfully imitate her duel with Malgus. And I just feel like it'd be freaking fire. The portrait that they can have me going on can be very nice. This one I hope to have an all new body mold so that we can get some better legs, because I believe that overall her character design requires more unique sculpting. But they did manage to get away with Bastila with having the Ayla Secura legs. So we might see what happens here if they ever do get around to her. But let's hope that recent figures have been an indication of where this line is heading with KOTOR in the future. And, well, KOTOR and SWOTOR. And of course, that leads us into Venzalo. Again, only connection is through the cinematics, and in which you see him. I think it's the Deceived Knights of the Old, or Star Wars: The Old Republic cinematic trailer, in which he is battling Darth Malgus, and he actually ends up getting defeated by him. There's that one very iconic shot of his green lightsaber. It's smoking, and it pours out, and it drops onto the floor, smoking and stuff like that. And then he falls to his knees and collapses right as the infiltrators and the Sith droids are coming and they're sacking Coruscant. So we got to get Venzalo going on, because of course the Old Republic Jedi designs are a lot more, they're a lot more. I want to say they're a lot more, how I say, warrior esque. They have a lot more armor on. And of course, in the Clone Wars, they got some of that armor that you see that's very akin to the Clone Troopers. But the Old Republic guys have this armor that's like, it's a lot more next gen. It looks like some futuristic type stuff, like you put a spin on it. And I really dig the design that they got going on with all of them. So if we can just get Venzel, I'm not asking for too much. I know with the Black Series line, they freaking suck in terms of accessories. So I'm just asking for his lightsaber. That's about it. And if it would be not too much to ask, an accurate lightsaber mold. But we got to get all new body mold going on there. Nice head sculpt and a nice breathable cape going on as well. That'd be really nice. Awesome. Love the marriage of the Jedi robes with the armor. That's just absolutely incredible. Next up, Mother Towson. So I know that y'all are gonna get on to me for the price that I put onto this girl, but we gotta have her with the Night Sister Cauldron so that you can have her imitating summing up spells, and you gotta have her with this green spell effects. Overall, as a character, I love Mother Towson because I don't know. There's just something about her. She's not like a set bad guy because she goes up against the actual people who we perceive as villains quite a bit, but she's also just freaking amazing. Like the had to sack Dathomir 2 times just to kill her. I mean, to be fair, they did succeed the second time if you read the Son of Dathomir comics. But that just shows how much of a problem she is. That's besides the point. The fact that they had to come and pull up to kill her. If you are a such a threat to Sidious's plans that he has to take you out and he attempts multiple times to take you out, then that's how you know that you're not to be played with. And we got to have a figure of her. There was a figure of her back in 2012, a 3 pack of Savaggio Press Mother Towson and a Maul figure, but that was in the 3.75-inch Clone Wars line, and it was in the animated style. But even then, it was still amazing looking. We've never seen this woman translated into the realistic style in the Vintage Collection or the Saga Legends line or the Black Series yet. So this would be a nice first opportunity. I feel like they could get some nice marriage of those vinyl pieces that they used with the 40th anniversary, the 50th anniversary retro carded Obi-Wan figure that was there. I feel like they could get something like that going on with Mother Towson as well. Or if you can't do that, try to incorporate some soft goods up on there. Or if push comes to shove, you can have her be a sort of traffic cone with the plastic. I feel like that would be more natural looking. But again, whichever way that you can do it, let's just get this figure out there. Come on now. That would be absolutely freaking amazing to have her accompanying your Savage or your Maul. I feel like she would go absolutely best with the Maul that came out recently for the Clone Wars Season 7, because that is the closest that you got to a Son of Dathomir Maul. And I just feel like that would be amazing to get. Quinlan Voss. This one is probably up there in my most anticipated Jedi to ever get. Quinlan Voss is just he has very small appearances within the Clone Wars TV show. That's probably people's main exposure to him. Mine is in the Dark Disciples book. Of course, he has a fling with Ventress, and he of course gets seduced by the dark side, becomes Admiral Enigma for a short period of time where he's evil. But of course, you don't really get to see that look too much. And eventually, not a lot of people know this, but he actually came close to killing Count Dooku. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, well, Count Dooku, of course, killed Ventress in that period of time. But man, this man just has a crazy story. One of the most underrated stories for a Jedi to have been turned to the dark side. A lot of people think that Anakin was one of the first few in terms of canon, but not Quinlan Voss. He was out there before Anakin. He was the original Anakin, basically. Came close to killing Count Dooku, but in a moment of clarity, spared his life. And I feel like that makes him purer than most Jedi, because the Jedi were the ones who even sent him on the mission to assassinate Count Dooku, which really just shows you how far they fell. But that's besides the point. We need Quinlan Voss in the line. Very acrobatic type Jedi. I feel like the body mold would have to be a bit more pronounced in terms of the muscle features, and it would give them an opportunity to actually try something new, sort of akin to mixing the Dagobah Luke Skywalker with the sort of the Clone Wars Jedi bodies and sort of having that together. But I would like an all new body mold if that's possible. You got to have interchangeable fists for that moment that he gets into the fist fight with Cad Bane, and of course his green lightsaber. We just got to have Quinlan Voss, man. Well, how many Jedi out there have dreads? Like, come on now, please. And then I think that this is the last one I got up onto the list. The Geonosian Elite. It's absolutely freaking necessary. Actually, I think I got two more after this. Geonosian Elite is freaking necessary, and the only reason why I have this on the list is because I just played Republic Commando and finished it like a couple months back, and I just these guys were freaking annoying, and there was absolutely no reason for them to be on Kashyyyk. I get the game was just throwing everything that it had at you in that final mission, but I really do love the design. I love how difficult they are to kill, and I feel like having these guys up there flying, a larger flying character would be really nice. But I feel like I'm sort of jumping the gun as we do not have a Pago the Lesser, a Geonosian warrior, a Geonosian hive mind member. We don't have any Geonosians in the line yet. So, I feel like we got to cover these bridges as we get there. But wishful thinking, a Geonosian Elite would be nice to see, and on an all new body mold with his Elite beam weapon, his wings, and his beam energy effect to get going on. Like that would just be amazing. I think next up is oh yes, Jerus Sabaoth. So this guy, there's Juris Sabaoth, who is the original, and then there's Jerus Sabaoth, who I've put onto this list, who is his clone and sort of the evil counterpart. Jerus Sabaoth was a very, he was a very ambitious, very unorthodox Jedi Knight or Jedi Master, who in his earlier days, it was back before, it was in between the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, led the outbound flight mission to sort of go into the unknown regions and discover out there. He was sort of like a Jedi supremacist in that time. He felt like Jedi were the the ultimate the ultimate power, that everybody else should kneel down to him. Although of course back then he was still a Jedi, so he still maintained some sort of essence of sanctimony, and he wasn't of course just going to outright enslave people, but his sense of mentorship and leadership and his ideology was really in line with what the young Anakin Skywalker used to think. But unfortunately, in an engage with Thrawn during the outbound flight mission, he was the original Jerus Sabaoth was killed, and he actually almost killed Thrawn by force choking him. But he was killed when outbound flight was destroyed, and his clone, who is Jerus Sabaoth, who I've put up onto this list, was later came into actual birth, and he came into galactic prominence several years down the line after episode 6, Return of the Jedi. He actually came back into being, and he is the one who is the dark sider. He's the one who's sort of evil. He's the one, Jerusalem is the one who has caused the problems for the New Republic and Luke's new Jedi Order up until he was killed by Mara Jade Skywalker. I think that was legacy. That was the last command, right? Yeah, that was the last command. I think that was the book that he was killed in. But it was freaking incredible the way that they were fighting, and of course, the Mara Jade figure inspired me to put this one up onto the list. I could have put the original Jurus Sabaoth, but of course, that one is just an old guy in Jedi robes. This guy has like this weird like Jedi robe mixed with ninja dark sider sort of esque thing going on, and I sort of really dig the design. It's very unorthodox, and in terms of accessories, you really just need interchangeable lightning hands. I put on a lightsaber on there, but he never really used one. You know what I'm saying? He was always just flexing his force abilities. So, as if he just had interchangeable lightning hands, that's all I really need. Force choke hands would be nice as well. But Jerusalem, this is one of the more obscure ones. I don't feel like I'll get a lot of people on this because a lot, of course, with the expanded universe, you either really love some of the costume designs or you really hate them. And Jerusalem is one of those that's sort of like, eh, but I'd want him. I'd love to see him. Now, these are the honorable mentions. So I'm going from right to left here. We got Kyle Katarn. There are a lot of people who really want Kyle Katarn, and I personally do like Kyle Katarn. Of course, it featured in the Dark Forces video games, and of course, my biggest connection to him is from the Yuzong Vong War in those books. More specifically, there was a Legacy Collection set, a comic pack that came out back in 2009 where it was Kyle Katarn and a Yuzong Vong warrior. And even though I'd love to see that recreated in 6-inch, they don't really touch the Yuzong Vong war that much. Even back then, actually when the Star Wars, when the merchandising would have called for them to do more Yuzong Vong figures, they didn't really touch it too much. And the only reason why Kyle Katarn is an honorable mention and not actually a spot on this list is because he's a very regular looking guy. Like if you just remove the lightsaber, he's kind of the average Joe, in terms of space costuming. There's nothing too interesting or visually appealing about him. And I feel like your really only connection people would have to him would be if they actually, had an affinity for the character and wanted him. So I feel like there are just more interesting designs out there that we could get in terms of Jedi. But the fact that he's just a regular dude with a lightsaber, I kind of dig it. You know what I'm saying? I kind of dig it. There's something about it that I like. And of course, the character would be a nice accompanying piece to Luke Skywalker and Mara Jade and Jaina Solo, of course. So Kyle Katarn, he's up on there. Sugi is, I actually really like her. I love the Bounty Hunters episode from the Clone Wars. I loved that episode. I like that it was just a standalone thing. And I really have a large respect for Sugi because she's one of those more honorable bounty hunters. You know what I'm trying to say? And of course, her design, whether you like it or not. I personally love it. Like she's just a lady Zabrak, basically. That's that's freaking cool. You know what I'm saying? That's freaking cool. She actually has she has straws maintaining past the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars is her only appearance in media. She never popped up in Rebels or anything like that. But her niece, who I'm forgetting the name of, her niece was actually a big part of the Aftermath series. And she was actually her niece was actually paying off some of her debt. So Sugi is later mentioned, and her legacy extends past the Clone Wars TV show in terms of the canon Star Wars story. And of course, Carnor Jax, an actual Carnor Jax. Of course, I'm grateful for the Kir Kanos figure, but Kir Kanos isn't not as cool as Carnor Jax in the sense that Kir Kanos is basically just a regular royal guard with a black body glove and a purple cape, whereas Carnor Jax puts a spin on all that. He got his black thigh high boots, his black thigh high heels, basically. He got the black armor with the red accents there. He really puts a spin on the whole royal guard motif, and it would just be really nice to get him. The disappointment that's in your eyes when Yakface leaks or rumors that there is a Carnor Jax figure coming, and then they reveal the figure. They say it's Carnor Jax and it's Kir Kanos. It's just, but hopefully we get Carnor Jax one of these good days. I wouldn't be mad if he's reusing the old Royal Guard body because that's a pretty nice body. But just get a Carnor Jax out there. And of course, my most anticipated, this was not necessarily in order from least anticipated to most anticipated. I just have them all up on here, but the figure I want most in the line, I feel like if some of y'all really pay attention to how much I talk, you'll know that this is my number one. But if some of y'all don't, this is where y'all probably lose me. My most anticipated Star Wars Black Series figure to get up into the line is Isan Isard. I look, the X-Wing series, I just think it's freaking fantastic. By Michael Stackpole, I love those books. And Isan Isard is a freaking she's a villain. That's just as basic as she gets. She's a bad person. You will never be fighting with her to get a common goal. You'll never be reasoning with her in order to not kill a village. She erupted an executor class. She erupted a super star destroyer off of Coruscant's from under Coruscant, killed millions of people, used biological warfare against the New Republic. Like she's an overall just not a good guy. And the craziest thing about her is that she's not a super crazy, crazy design villain. She's not like, by looking at her, you wouldn't think she's just a bad person, but her design, it's a very simplistic design. You can get her done on the Tala body mold with the new head sculpt. But she just has the very nice little intricacies about her. Like I like that her Imperial officer suit is all red, from the Imperial Intelligence Agency. I feel like that's a very unique thing about her. And the one thing that I'd really love to see, they do head sculpts real well, even if there's not like an actual real life portrait, like a real life actress portraying them. I'd love to see them do this head sculpt and get the red eye and the blue eye up on there. Like that's just Isan Isard, man. She's just freaking ridiculous. She ended up getting killed. She terrorized the New Republic in its infancy for a while, and she ended up actually getting killed by a woman. Her name was Lela Wasiri, who ended up becoming Wedge Antilles' wife. And Wedge Antilles actually took command of Isan Isard's ship in the final days of the Imperial Remnant, and of course later on the Yuzong Vong War. So yes, I gotta get Yasan Isard up into the line, man. We gotta expand that Legends array of characters a lot more, because it's not something that they really touch nowadays. And it's not that they're apprehensive to doing it. I suppose that they are kind of apprehensive to doing it, but they still, they lean up into that Legends category mainly through gaming reach. but it would just be really nice to have a Yasan Isard, get up into the books a little bit more and get a Yasan Isard out there. She has some different looks, she has the more action focused look that is her in the sort of greenish costume. But I'm just suggesting that she comes with an alternate ponytail head and an E11 blaster, sort of like her legacy collection appearance, because it'd just be a very simplistic design and it'd be something that'd make me so happy with so little. But yes, that's my those are some of my most anticipated Star Wars Black Series figures. Not universally agreed upon all of them. I bet that there are some people out there, the Black Series line mainly focuses on new media because, of course, that is what Lucasfilm tries to push out there more often. But these are just characters that I'd love to get because I love the legends aspect of Star Wars quite a bit. I love those stories. I love how deep and enticing they are. The timeline may make absolutely no sense, but at the end of the day, I just love the character designs and I love Star Wars. So I'd love to see all these guys got going on. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tell me, what are some of your most anticipated Star Wars Black Series figures? What are the ones from this list that you'd want to see made the most? If I had to pick three to get made and none others, I would choose Nine Nub, Satil Shan, and Isan Isard. If I could only choose three from this list. Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's it for me. That would be the 3 that I choose if I could only have 3, but I feel like the most likely for them to make is, definitely Quinlan Voss. I feel like they'll get to at some point, Mother Towson, of course, and, I feel like Satil Shan they'll get to. The Teal Shan they'll get to, and Shakti. I feel like out of all the people I have on this list, Lobot, Nine Nub, and Shakti are like the most likely to be coming sometime soon. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. Tell me what are some of your most anticipated figures in the line, and I hope to see you all on the next one. Stay safe out there. Always remember to do the best, and remember, although I'm leaving, the Force will be with you always.